Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of my mission experiences in Argentina, Comodoro Rivadavia. Today I'm touching on my second area in Comodoro, in the area of La Prensa, with my new companion, Elder Ladueña. So I had just received Elder Ladueña as my companion, and I just sent Elder Rojas, who I had really struggled with, off to another area. Um, it was quite the change. Elder Ladueña also was from Buenos Aires. In fact, he was in the same ward, grew up in the same ward as Elder Rojas, and so he knew Elder Rojas very well, which was kind of funny. It was kind of ironic, but Elder Rojas left. We didn't leave on the greatest terms together. In fact, he stole some of my stuff. He stole a thumb drive from me. He stole some other stuff and just disappeared with it, which is what it is. I ended up getting it back later because one of my buddies ended up being his companion and snitching on him for taking my stuff. Anyways, long story short, Elder Ladueña gets to the area, and his first day in the area um, was crazy. But a little bit of backstory on Elder Ladueña. Elder Ladueña was 23 years old. He was from Buenos Aires, as I had said. He was the most amazing missionary. Could teach with the Spirit like no other. And I was told at one point in my mission, and I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but I was told he had Asperger's. And I really genuinely believe that that was the reason that he could teach with such a spirit that people would listen. Genuinely. So that's just a little bit of backstory on Elder Ladueña. And as I'm sure I said just a minute ago, he was raised in very humble circumstances in Buenos Aires. And so he was just an amazing missionary that could really touch the hearts of others. But the first day Elder Ladueña got to the area, we wanted to really make a lasting impression, and we were struggling with the members in the ward. A lot of the members didn't trust us. They didn't want to be around us because of some past missionaries that had been in the area that had caused some problems for the members. And so what we did is we went to the bishop's house, who also kind of struggled with the missionaries, and we talked with him, and we're like, "Hey, I know that we're struggling with with the members, and we want them to be able to trust us. What can we do?" And he said, "I think the best idea for you guys is to go and teach the members, and go and practice with the members, go and talk to the members, go be part of the members' lives, because they're going to be a very important key role for you in your teaching." And so that's what we did. We took two of the members from the ward, two of the young men, from the priest quorum. One was David Vega, and the other one was Ariel Aforiseth, which was the bishop's son. And we split up. I went with Ariel. Elder Ladueña went with David Vega. And our whole goal for the day was to just go out and be with the members, and to teach them, or to just develop relationships with them so that they would trust us again. And so I remember we went out to the first person that we met with, and we knock on the door, and she opens the door and she goes, "Elders, I don't really want to see you guys. Like, I don't trust you guys anymore. You guys lost a lot of my trust." And I just remember sitting there and be like, "Oh shoot, like that's a problem." And I don't remember what happened, but we were just like, okay. And I was with the bishop's son. Long story short, the lady let us in the house, and we ended up talking to her, and she became one of the most helpful members in that ward. She did so much for us. But long story short, we left that appointment on a really good terms with her. She had been a missionary in the past, and so she knew what it was like to be a missionary. Um, and it was a great experience, and I think it was an even better experience for Ariel that went out with us. So we that was our day. We just went out and we spent all day. These young men gave up their entire days to come spend time with the missionaries and help us grow relationships with the war. And so it was quite the experience there. And so after we dropped those young men off, Elder Ladueña and I set out on our ways, and our goal was to just develop relationships with the members. And this is where I really learned um, the success of working with members. We made it a goal. Elder Ladueña and I made it a goal to go and see members once a day, at least one member a day. A lot of times it was two, sometimes it was three. and sometimes it was more. But we would drop by a member's house and teach them a lesson at least once a day. And that was the most beneficial thing that I think I ever did in my mission. And that's something I took with me to the rest of my areas because it was so beneficial. And Elder Laduane and I, we had about the same time in the mission. And we were both young. We were both new in the mission. We had both been out for just about 6 months at this point. And so we were really in our learning stages. And Elder Laduena, he was a real help for me. He pushed me to the point where I had to learn Spanish. I really, really struggled with Spanish, as I had said in my very first episode. Spanish just didn't make sense in my mind. After being out for so long in the mission, a lot of missionaries pick up Spanish at about 6 months, and they can speak very fluently and not have any issues. That wasn't me. It took me about 9 months to feel fluent and to be able to speak like a missionary would about 6 months. So it took me quite a bit of extra time. And that was really hard. But being with Elder Laduena, I was forced to speak only Spanish because he only spoke Spanish. He didn't speak English, and he didn't really have a desire to learn English. And so that was something that was really good for me. I made the commitment to myself that, number one, I was going to be the most obedient missionary I possibly could be to see miracles. And number two, I was doing an English fast. A lot of the English missionaries, they'd get together and they'd speak English because that was kind of a release for them. That was a let out for them to be able to speak English and to kind of feel like they're at home. And I decided from that point, I will not speak English, not even once. And I remember praying every single day, Heavenly Father, help me learn Spanish. This is so hard. I don't understand. In fact, we met some of the members that we met up with, and she was a very straightforward member. She told me, Elder, your Spanish sucks. I remember this. She was a police officer, and that kind of took a toll on me. I was like, yeah, it really does suck. And so that's when I decided I was going to English fast. And so I didn't speak English for about a transfer and a half of my time with Elder Laduena. And then an elder from Phoenix came into the mission, and I really wanted to talk to him and get to know him. But he didn't speak any Spanish, so I spoke English with him. And that's when I broke my fast. I ended up seeing that member right after I broke my English fast, so about a transfer and a half later. She had been out of town, and we hadn't seen her in about 6 weeks, and she saw me, and I started talking to her, and her eyes got huge, and she goes, Elder, who are you? And I was like, Elder Passy, we've talked before. And she's like, oh, I know that, but your Spanish is phenomenal now. What changed? And I said, well, I fasted. I English fasted for 6 weeks, for about 9 weeks actually, and I didn't speak a word of English for 9 weeks. And she goes, that's a miracle. And she was a little bit less active at the time, and we ended up baptizing her son, which I'll explain later. But it was quite the transformation. Anyways, Elder Laduena and I started working, and it was awesome. We were having so much success. We were teaching Augustina, who I talked about in the prior episode. And Augustina, she was 16 or 17 at the time. No, that's a lie. I think she was 18 at the time when we started teaching her. And we started teaching her, and I remember one day we were sitting at their house, and Augustina's mom was standing there, and I looked at her. Her name was Nina. And I looked at Nina and I said, Nina, would you like to join our lesson today? And she's like, yeah. And so she sat down and listened to our first lesson. And at the end of the lesson, I felt very impressed to look at her and invite her to be baptized. And I said, Nina, I bore my testimony to her about the gospel of Christ. And I said, we'd like to invite you to be baptized, just as Augustina is going to be baptized. And she sat there for a second, nodded her head, and she said, I'd like that, but I'm not going to accept a date. I will be baptized sometime, especially if my daughter gets baptized, but I'm not going to accept a date. And we were like, okay, that's reasonable. And so that was quite the experience there. It's as Augustina was getting ready to be baptized. Augustina was so committed to the church that she's all like, I don't want to wait 3 weeks. Can I get baptized faster? And we had to tell her no because we felt like it was good for her to learn and grow. I remember teaching Augustina all the lessons, and she just had faith that they were true. They were good. and Augustina spoke almost perfect English. So we would go back and forth in lessons and between English and Spanish sometimes, just to play around with her English as well. But I remember one day we taught the law of tithing, and she was like, "Well, I don't have a job. I don't really make any income. I can't pay tithing." And we're like, "That's okay. When you do get a job, do you commit to paying tithing?" She said yes. And we left her house that day. Kid you not, 3 hours later, we get a text message. Elders, I felt very impressed that I needed to go to Central today, downtown, and look for a job. And I was hired, and I will be paying my tithing on Sunday. And we were just like, what the heck, dude? Like, we found a golden investigator, and we really had. Augustina and Nina were both our golden girls. They were our golden investigators. Here's a picture of my apartment. This was a little balcony that we had right here. And then we had a tire shop that was beneath us that was always making noise. It was really annoying. This apartment was kind of a crazy one. We didn't have a shower head, just had a hole out of the wall that would just spray water on us. We also didn't have hot water in this area, so that was fun. Never had hot water, so you get up and take a cold shower, and that was super fun. um, yeah, it was that was quite the thing. But we had a plaza right here in front of our area, and a lot of times the other churches, I think they knew we lived in where we lived, because they would go out here and they'd like have a bullhorn and they'd be yelling and preaching their gospel right in front of our apartment, which was kind of funny. It was quite humorous. This was my favorite yogurt in the mission, Yogg's mango peach yogurt. It was so good. I miss that stuff. Their yogurt there is like very, very thin. It's not like thick yogurt here in the U.S. Like you drink it out of the bottle. So you just take off the top and you drink it like it was almost the consistency of milk or water. It was so good though. There's dulce de leche. Look at my nasty little snaggle tooth right here, man. Just the way I smiled made it look. I don't even know how I did that, but it made it look like a total snaggle tooth. My mom saw that picture and said I looked like Nanny McPhee. This caption's actually kind of funny in this. So Elder Ladueña, he would get stressed out really easy, and I think that came with the Asperger's. He would get stressed out like super, super easy, and I remember talking to my mission president. My mission president gave me permission to sit and play Magic the Gathering with him. One game of Magic the Gathering, about 15 minutes long, after companionship study. He had also told me to like sit down when we're out walking around and let Elder Ladueña doodle, because Elder Ladueña was an amazing artist. And so that was that. Elder Ladueña told me all the time, "Oh, why are you obedient? Why do you get up at 7 a.m.?" That was the time we got up in my mission. It was either 7 or 7:30, because of being so far south. The sun came up later in the day, and so instead of being up when it was dark, my mission president just adjusted time schedules. Anyways, Elder Ladueña is like, "Why do you get up at 7 o'clock every day, Elder?" And I was like, "Because that's the mission rules." And he goes, "Well, you should have a purpose behind getting up." And I was like, "I do. I have my purpose." And he's like, "Well, it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you get up because it's the mission rules." And that was kind of the outlook Elder Ladueña had on being a missionary. And that was one thing I did appreciate about him, is I appreciated that he told me that I should have a purpose with the mission rules, and I agreed with that. But I also know that being blindly obedient sometimes was a good thing, and it brought us blessings. And I remember Elder Ladueña called me Robatazo, or like Elder Robot, which was pretty funny. So that was something we had to work with, but that it was still something that was just super funny that I had to work with Elder Ladueña. This is that family. This is the lady that told me my Spanish sucked, and then when I saw her 9 weeks later, she told me my Spanish was amazing. This is her mom, and this is my comfort Santi. He was 10 years old. His mom wasn't active. She had kind of strayed away from the church, and so he'd never been baptized. This is his little sister Giovanna, and this is Benjamin. And she was 7, he was 5, and Santi was 10. And Santi really wanted to take the lessons. He went to church every week with his grandma. And when we met his mom, she was okay with him being baptized and told us that. She's like, "If you want to teach my son and he's interested in being baptized, he can make his own decisions. He's a big boy." And so that's what we started doing. We started teaching Santi, and Santi just took off with what we taught him. He was attending church every week, and so Santi ended up being baptized a little bit later on, and it was something that was really, really crazy. Another fun fact about Karina is she actually served with my mom's next door neighbor, the neighbor that my mom grew up next to, who was a little bit older than my mom. Her name was Kathy Carroll, but they actually served together in their mission, which was pretty funny. It's a small world. That's Santi again. This was probably a couple days before he got baptized, which was pretty cool. This was just a big rock that stuck out in the ocean right next to the downtown Comodoro area. I was there on a P day, and I thought it looked cool, so we took a picture. Let's see. Okay, so I wish that this was in this title here. I did not draw this. This was Elder Ladueña, as I said, was a fantastic doodler, and he wanted to teach me. He was very big into anime. He wanted to teach me how to draw anime, and so I started drawing an anime dude. And he told me I made the head shape too egg shaped, too much like a female anime character, and so he added the hair for me, and then he added the chest of this. And so I know my mom posted this, and somebody came and commented to my mom, was like, why is Jake drawing that in his mission? Is that a little bit weird? And I was like, I swear, I wish my mom would have posted this. I did not draw this. Elder Ladueña helped me with my drawing skills, and he ended up drawing a majority of this. I think I just colored it in. But so that is the story behind this drawing here. So please don't judge me. I promise I wasn't being crazy or anything. So that's why I have this drawing. But it just shows you how amazing of an artist Elder Ladueña was. He was really good at what he did. There's another picture of me at the bay. Here are my scriptures. So the little boy that we baptized, his grandpa was an amazing artisan. He would create scripture covers, which I actually have my scriptures right here. Let's see if I can pull it out. So I've got these scriptures right here. And yeah, they're really cool. I still use these scriptures on a quite frequent basis, but I love those scriptures. I love those scripture covers with my whole heart, honestly. They were very cool. As you can see here, this is a picture of Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane being comforted by an angel as he's going through the process of what would become our atonement. And he was suffering in the Garden of Gethsemane for us. And so I love that picture. But he's being comforted by an angel there. And so I had the member put that on here. And then I had the member put our mission logo, and then Rise Up. This is a song by Imagine Dragons that just, from what I know, it's Dan Reynolds kind of song about his mission. If that's correct, I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, it was my mission song. It came out literally the day I left on my mission. It came out. I ended up buying the album a couple months before it dropped, and so I got to listen to that a couple days before it came out. It was pre-released for the people that bought it early. Anyways, that song was really important to me, and because I felt like it was a mission song, I uploaded on my mission iPod, which I felt guilty about it. And so as soon as I got to the mission, I told my mission president about it, and he's like, that's okay. It is what it is. He said, I would suggest you don't listen to it, but I would listen to it from time to time. When I was in my very first area, and I was having a really hard time with Spanish, and I was just sad and having a hard time, I had this little speaker, and I would take it and I would put it on my chest, and I just go lay in my bed and I play that song on repeat. My companion hated the song because I would play it often, but I would listen to that on the days I was having a hard day. And I just remember I'd put it on my chest and I'd listen to the song and I'd cry. Genuinely, I'm not much of an emotional person, genuinely. Anybody that knows me knows that. But I would sit there and I would cry a lot of the times because it was just a really hard day. I remember coming home in my first area, and I know we're in the second area, but I didn't share this when I was in my first area, but I'd come home, my head would hurt, my jaw would hurt, because Spanish is a very language spoken at the front of the mouth, whereas English is from the throat. And I remember my jaw would hurt, my head would hurt. I didn't understand. I couldn't communicate. I felt ununderstood or not understood. And it was really rough. And so that was kind of my release, was listening to that song and just laying on my bed and crying. But that's all right. I got through it, man. It was an experience that I needed to have and I needed to learn. Anyways, so that's why I put that on those scriptures, just to always remind me that to raise up and be better, to always be better and do better. And so that was just something that was really, really important to me, was those two words, rise up. And so bumping my screens here. As you can see there, if my camera will focus, it says rise up. Let's see. I don't know if it's going to focus. Anyways, probably, I don't know if you can see it. Focus that back. Anyways, that was just something that was really, really important to me, and it still means a lot to me. And I still relate that song to my mission every time I hear it. It reminds me of those experiences that I needed to have. Those are the experiences that made me a man. But I think that's it for this episode. I'll explain more about my second area in the next episode. So thanks, guys, for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys next time. Later.